You're listening to Transmission on 4ZZZ, amplifying the trans and gender non-conforming voices of Brisbane and beyond.
Hello, you're listening to Transmission on 4ZZZ. My name is Ez, I use he, him pronouns.
And I'm Kai, and I use they, she pronouns.
And yeah, Transmission is all about amplifying the voices of the trans and gender non-conforming community here in Brisbane. So Transmission, we normally talk about what's happening in community events and news first up. And then we got a special guest from a really iconic local band. I don't know. I'm trying to wind people up now. Get them really.
Meanjin's Trans Punk Darling, really.
Oh, yes. Oh, that's a great. There you go. Meanjin's Trans Punk Darling. That's right. She's a bit of an icon. I'm a big fan. Fangirling out in here. So, she's sitting outside waiting for us. I'm literally not gonna tell you who it is until we come back. So we've got someone that we're talking to. But first up, the week in community events. Kai, what's happening?
Speaking of trans punk darlings of Meanjin, not who we've got in today, but Queerbait will be supporting Bikini Kill at the Tivoli on Friday, March 3rd at 7:30 p.m. So congratulations to Queerbait, because that is really cool.
Yeah, it is really, really cool.
So it's their first, the Bikini Kill's first time touring Australia since 1997 with original members and feminist punk pioneer Kathleen Hanna, gosh, can't speak today, Toby Vale and Kathy Wilcox, who are bringing the riot to the Tivoli for an all-ages show.
Yeah, this is really cool. I wasn't going to mention it today because I would have thought the tickets have sold out, but they have not. So I'll pop a link on the Transmission Facebook page at Trans Radio with a Z. Buy a ticket, go support Queerbait. Also Bikini Kill, but yeah, mainly Queerbait.
yeah. Have a girl punk, riot girl night out on Friday. I'll see you there. Yes.
There are a few Z heads that will be present for this iconic event, really.
Yeah.
So yeah, you better get down to the Tivoli. Then there's also so not this week but next week on Friday, March 10th from 7 p.m. at Back Dock Arts is Heelfire Club with Super Mari Ho Party. This will be when your favourite characters from the Mushroom Kingdom get together for an all-out celebration in honour of their favourite Italian plumber, featuring a collection of Meanjin's amazing burlesque and drag artists. Doors open at 7 p.m. for a 7:30 p.m. show. 7:30 p.m. shows. It's an 18+ event. There's also best dress and game prizes that can be won. You will also see Transmission's Lord Severus there as well, in drag in an amazing. Sev has some incredible costumes, so
Yeah.
And a Mario themed one. I'm keen. So
he's also a very incredible performer. So.
Well, duh. What else we got?
Sophie LaBelle is doing her Trans Agenda tour at 20 Bouville Street in Bouville, Ipswich, on Monday 13th of March at 6 p.m. and Tuesday 14th of March at 2 p.m. Sophie LaBelle is back in Brisbane for one last time for her Trans Agenda tour. Don't miss this chance to hear her speak. This event, organised by ATSAC, which is Australian Transgender Support Association Queensland, is open to everyone with free entry, donations at the door if you feel like it. During her talk, she will speak about her art and activism, her artistic process, comic making, community building, and empowerment through art. She also has a bunch of great jokes about TERFs. She will answer questions from the audience and sign books at the end. Shouldn't have left this to the end, but Sophie LaBelle is a neurodivergent trans cartoonist and novelist from Montreal, Canada, and she's the author of the webcomics Assigned Male.
Yeah.
Which are great. You might have seen them on the internet, which has been running since 2014, and the Ciel novel series. She lives in Finland with her Finnish husband. The best of Assigned Male was recently published by Hachette in the UK.
Yeah, iconic, trans comic cartoonist. Yeah, so she's totally make time for that. Just that will be on Monday 13th of March and Tuesday 14th of March. So that'll be out in Ipswich Way. You should definitely.
Oh yeah, it'll be a good laugh.
Yes, at the very least. Pretty good stuff. Oh, and I guess we should move into the news. The news. There's been some things.
Yeah. So Spain has passed laws allowing anyone over 16 to change registered gender. So Spain's parliament has passed new legislation which allows anyone over 16 to legally change their gender on official documents without medical intervention. It also allows for youth aged 12 to 14 to change their legal gender with authorization from a judge, and anyone aged 14 to 16 to change with the approval from their parents or guardians. The law will also ease abortion access for young people aged 16 and 17, introduce paid menstrual leave, which is a first for Europe, ban conversion therapy, which will be punishable with hefty fines, and put an end to public subsidies for groups that incite or promote LGBTI phobia.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
what a
awesome.
law. Whew. The rest of Europe are sweating under the pressure of progressive Spain. That's awesome. We've also got nearly 1,000 contributors protest New York Times coverage of trans people. So I'm reading from The Guardian here. Nearly 1,000 New York Times contributors, in addition to tens of thousands of subscribers and readers of The Times, signed an open letter to the paper's standards editor condemning the publication's coverage of transgender, non-binary and gender non-conforming people. A second letter, organised by the not-for-profit GLAD, the Gay and Lesbian Alliance Against Defamation, on Wednesday spoke against what is called irresponsible, biased coverage of transgender people in The Times. The Times has asserted that its reporting is nuanced and fair, saying GLAD's advocacy mission and The Times' journalistic mission are different. As a news organisation, we pursue independent reporting on transgender issues that include profiling groundbreakers in the movement, challenges and prejudice faced by the community, and how society is grappling with debates about care, said Charlie, who's the Times Director of External Communications, in a statement that was provided to several media organisations. So this is just something that that's been spread everywhere. In recent months, The Times has published several stories on healthcare for trans youth, as well as opinion pieces on the subject. The contributors' letter said that plenty of reporters at The Times cover trans issues fairly, but criticised the organisation and specific reporters for publishing over 15,000 words of front-page Times coverage debating the propriety of medical care for trans children over the past 8 months. That letter, signed by 30,000 supporters as of late Friday, includes Chelsea Manning, Cynthia Nixon and Roxanne Gay.
Whew, yeah, there's a lot going on in the US at the moment. We're not going to talk about all of it, but anyway.
It's tense. It's tense.
It is. But in trans health research, trans broken arm syndrome, so this is reading from a social media post by Trans Health Research. Recent research from the US explored the prevalence of trans broken arm syndrome, a form of healthcare discrimination where the healthcare professional incorrectly assumes that the presenting health condition is the result of the patient's gender identity or medical transition. The survey of 147 trans and gender diverse people found that nearly 1/3 reported some form of trans broken arm syndrome. These experiences included assumptions by the healthcare professional that they were disordered in their thinking or being, hyperfocus on aspects of medical gender affirmation, ignorance or incompetence in treating trans people, and having health concerns dismissed by the healthcare professional.
Yeah, disappointing but not uncommon. I've experienced this.
Oh, yep. I mean, it also
you're just trans,
sounds like...
so you're broken anyway.
Yeah. This happens for trans people. This happens, similarly but differently for people of color, fat people, women, just not really being believed by medical professionals is something I think we have all experienced to some extent.
Yes, it's pretty... Medical research and diagnoses can be pretty biased. I don't know why anyone would suggest otherwise, but I'm glad that Trans Health Research Hub down in Melbourne, have been conducting these incredible research projects, not just on this recent one, trans broken arm syndrome, but also on a variety of different topics, including hormone therapy and the benefits and so on. You can actually check out Trans Health Research by jumping onto their website. So yeah, transhealthresearch.org.au.
Yeah, so I think this actually wasn't their research, but it's worth checking them out because they also post blog posts on any research that's relevant to their mission that they're not doing as well. So if you want to keep up to date on like actual studies regarding trans people, they're a good place to look at.
Yeah, you should do it. Anyway, amplifying the voices of the trans and gender non-conforming community of Meanjin, Brisbane and beyond.
Transmission on 4ZZZ brings you the latest in trans community news, music and events.
Every Tuesday from 9am till 10am.
Join our team of hosts for an hour of celebrating the unique perspectives of the trans community.
Transmission, Tuesday mornings from 9am till 10am on 4ZZZ. My name is Ez, I use he, him pronouns.
I'm Kai and I use they, she pronouns.
And we are joined in studio by the one, the only, Emmy from the Cutaways.
Hello. What an intro. Thank you. It's great to be here. Yeah, I'm Emmy. I use she, her pronouns. So, yeah, it's great to be here. Thank you, guys.
I'm so excited you're here. So the Cutaways, iconic local band, iconic Australia-wide as far as I'm concerned. How have you been?
Great. Yeah, wonderful. Really good. On the band front, been a bit quiet, but we've got a bit coming up soon, which we'll be able to talk about, no doubt. But yeah, otherwise I'm great, doing very well. Thank you.
Yay! So you've been gigging for a while. How long have you been actually in music, really?
It's scary. I don't know. That's maybe 20, just over 25 years, I guess. It's a long time. It's crazy. I just had a milestone birthday recently, which you both attended, which was lovely. Yeah, I mean, first band I was in was when I was 14 in high school with a few friends, and that was, like 97. I'm not going to do the math, but...
That's when Bikini Kill were here last.
Yeah, right, yeah. So, and basically haven't really stopped since then. One way or another, I've been playing music and bands and stuff since then, around Brisbane mostly, obviously. But, it's been fun. I don't think I could ever stop now, you know. You go through those times where you're like, why am I doing this? You know, I guess sort of like a mid-life crisis sort of thing. But then you sort of realise, I think, if you've been doing it this long, there's probably no way you're going to stop.
It'd become a force of habit, surely. You know,
it does.
What would you be doing if it wasn't music?
Of course, yeah. No, I couldn't think of anything else. But then you sort of have those moments where you doubt it and you're like, why am I doing this? But then I recently personally had a really amazing experience playing a solo show, and I was like, this is why I play it. This is why I still play music. It's just really special, and I think it always will be. So it's one of those things I can sort of picture when I'm an old lady and still been able to do, I suppose. Maybe just a bit slower and a bit take things down a few notches, but I'll definitely
you could get angrier. You could be like,
maybe, who knows?
Just kookier, you know.
That's it. I'm writing songs about my garden.
Why not? Yeah, sure. Yeah, that's me in another, let's say 20 years, eh? We'll see how we go.
Yeah. So before you before you go and sit down with the rest of the band and create something, what is that process like? So do you typically come with something? Does everyone bring an idea in terms of writing a new song, or? I'm a
little bit controlling in that sense, in that I write most of the stuff. Our guitarist Ben, he does as well. He likes to have some input, which is great. But I guess my process has always been, and it took a little bit of time to figure it out. But I think especially with this current band, the Cutaways, we sort of worked out what our writing process, or how our writing process works best. So I always write on an acoustic guitar. A lot of the time, I'm sort of imagining them just as solo songs that I'll just play on my own. And I'll just basically come up with, like a bit of a chord progression and a melody. And from there, I will usually send it to Ben, the guitarist, and he'll have a fiddle around and a play and add lead bits to it and stuff. Sometimes I'll send it to the others just so they can get their heads around it. And at this point, I've got usually the entire structure laid out. And then when we eventually take it into the band room, like I said, usually everyone's kind of familiar with it, so we can usually bash it out pretty quickly. And then it's what I like to refer to as the Cutaways filter, where everyone is the time that everyone sort of has their input and it sort of gets changed from something that I imagined as a solo song into like a full band song, and it's great fun. I mean, it's great when everyone all comes together, and most of the time it's completely different to how I ever imagined the song would be. But again, it's just everyone having their input and adding little changes here and there, and that's usually it. And then from there, I usually don't write lyrics until the full song's done, because sometimes if it doesn't work out, I sort of feel like I put so much effort into lyrics, and sometimes they're good, sometimes they're bad. But I like to wait until I know that it definitely can be a song before putting all that energy in, I suppose. And then that's
and
it.
like that feeling, like especially with writing lyrics and then melody, and then you have everything together, it can be like, oh, I really want to say this, but what I've said doesn't fit now.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, or it doesn't fit the mood, kind of thing, and things like that. Yeah.
You're like, oh, I was so happy about my flowers, but the song is so sad, you know? It's not working out. And do you find like, because you know, in the last 25 years that you've been making music, has that changed? Has that process changed for you?
Definitely, yeah. Yeah, I think obviously growing up and matured as a songwriter, I guess, well, actually the process itself, I've always been, that's just sort of, and I've sort of heard about how other writers write music. I mean, some people do write lyrics and then write music around it, which I could never do. But I know a lot of artists sort of take the same approach as me, and I guess I have always sort of done that, at least sat down and come up with like a progression and then just added words onto that, or like a melody first and then words from there. And I guess I think probably we've matured a lot in the way, I mean, because everyone in the band has sort of grown up playing music as well, but I think we've all sort of matured in the way that we write and approach songs and stuff as well. So yeah, and thinking back, like you say, like I guess the process for myself personally hasn't really changed that much, but I think as a whole, we've sort of matured a lot and have a really good way of bringing it all together.
You've like grown together as well.
All in different. I mean, we grew up playing in different bands, and then it's crazy to think now we've been doing this band for I think 7 years, and we recently got a new drummer, but the core members, myself, Ben, or B1 as he likes to be called, and Marcus. So we've been writing for quite a while now. So we've sort of got our process, and it works pretty well, I suppose. Everyone seems pretty happy with how we're doing it. But
I mean, you had Cheap Curtains in the Hot 100, you know?
Yeah,
it's like number 32.
Was it 32?
Yeah, 32.
Okay. Yeah, cool.
I had to check. I was like, somewhere in the early 30s.
Yeah, that was pretty good. I mean, every year, I think last year we were in the 40s. I don't know if we're in the year before that. But anyway, it's coming down. We're getting closer and closer. I kind of figure in about, 8 years' time, we might make it to close to number one. Let's see.
You'll have a hit. Actually, because the Hot 100 was, the number one track was Square Tugs with, featuring Polly Cook from Mitch Please. And Mitch Please was with Rich Mitch for their set was number 2. And I nearly wore a Mitch Please shirt this morning, and then I went, how rude. Poor Emmy, you know, from the number 32, and I come in wearing a Mitch Please shirt. So I was like, no, I'm not doing that.
Oh, come on. No, there's definitely no hard feeling.
No, we love Mitch Please.
I've been suggesting that we should start calling cut-off shirts cutaway shirts if you're in Brisbane.
Oh, yeah.
In honour.
Then we could also start wearing cut-off or cutaway shirts. Make it like a band uniform.
Maybe you could like have your next piece of merch can just have like a scissor dotted line over where the sleeve seam.
Sure, genius.
And then
amazing.
be like, cut the cutaways, and then just like, you know, points to the fact that you can cut the sleeves off.
I would like maybe like just cut just over the shoulders, and then have it like a little off the shoulder, semi-cut, you know. Anyway.
Yeah.
So give people the option, like have cut lines there, or there. You could have it a bit shorter, a bit longer.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, I'm writing this down. I'm taking this to the band.
Transmission giving you notes on how to do your merch. Yeah, you're welcome.
Wonderful.
So another question I had was, so with writing music and then what you create has with being trans and transitioning and your identity, how has that influenced what you've written, what you've created?
Oh, big influence. I mean, especially the stuff that I was writing when I first came out, and sort of that's about the time that the Cutaways started, because I guess writing prior to that I sort of held back or hid things quite a lot in lyrics, but then I just sort of felt like I could say what I wanted to say when it came to identifying as a trans woman, you know, like it just felt like everything, the floodgates were open, so I could just say what I wanted to say and be free to say it, you know, like, and it felt really great to be able to do that finally, and So the album that we put out a couple of years ago, that was sort of a number of years in the making, but when we eventually released it, it was called Wax Woman, and essentially that was just about my journey up until that point as a trans woman and coming out and how it impacted relationships and things around me and things like that. So that was very therapeutic, I suppose, to get that out. I don't really, in that sense, I don't really sort of write. I mean, it's always sort of, my experience is still always at the sort of front of my mind when I'm writing music. But I think I'm sort of, and it feels good to be able to write about other things now, like just life stuff. And I guess it's sort of like, again, my trans experience comes through in those sort of, in those songs as well. But it's not like the main topic most of the time. Unless I sort of think there's something that I want to say relating to being trans or anything like that. Yeah.
It's interesting, like the early phases for transition for most people, it's like you're all consumed by this identity and you're absorbed into it, and then as a creative with music, you're like, this is where I'm channeling it. Like you're just like, I'm putting it all in here.
Well, I think I've heard it referred to as the pink cloud when you know, those first couple of years when you come out and you're transitioning, like everything's just, you know, it's kind of like you're living on this pink cloud for a while, but and
you're like submerged in it. And,
it just
surrounded.
becomes your whole life in a way, which is great. I mean, it's been a number of years for myself now, so I've sort of settled down a bit, you know. It's just, but,
yes. It can be a little exhausting as well.
Yeah,
you know,
that's right.
Early phase.
Yeah. No, like I mean, it happens with coming out as just as queer or something as well. You know, you're completely changing how you view yourself and seeing a whole different world, which is like so exciting and so stimulating. And so you want to share that, you want to talk about it all the time, and then you get to the point where you're like, you know, I'm just living. You know,
yeah, well, that's it. Yeah,
and which is great. You know, we need that. We need that so much as well. It doesn't always need to be a huge battle. Some things are just about everyday life, 100%. You know.
Yeah, I agree.
Through a trans lens, still through a queer lens, it always will be.
Yep,
you know.
Exactly. Yeah. And I guess you just sort of get used to that lens, right? It just becomes normal. So you just sort of adapt to the way
becomes your prescription glasses.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah,
that's
and
right,
how nice
exactly.
is that?
Yeah, but the other thing I guess is in the time that the Cutaways have been around, especially, just 7-8 years, just how visible trans artists and just the trans community as a whole as well, it's just changed so much and so quickly. So that's pretty encouraging as well. So. Yeah,
and you were at the beginning of that with the Cutaways.
Well, kind of, I guess.
Yeah.
There wasn't really too many that I knew of, too many trans artists or performers when the Cutaways... Actually, so I was in another band previously, and I sort of came out towards the tail end of that. But yeah, definitely at the time, there was not many other trans artists around. So yeah, it's pretty special to see how much it's grown in that, fairly short amount of time. But it's obviously still a ways to go. There's still, but I mean, I'm encouraged. I feel like it's going to, as we were saying before, just the number of artists that you were able to play on this sort of show in the space of an hour is amazing. Yeah, it's great. Speaking of music, actually, because I would love to play Cheap Curtains, which is number 32 on the 4ZZZ Hot 100. This is Cheap Curtains, The Cutaways.
My name is Georgie Stone, and you're listening to Transmission on 4ZZZ.
You're listening to Transmission on 4ZZZ, Transmission is all about amplifying the trans and gender non-conforming voices of Meanjin and beyond. I'm Ez, I use he, him pronouns.
I'm Kai, and I use they, she pronouns. And I'm Emmy, I'm the guest, and I use she, her pronouns. I thought you were going to say I'm the gay or something. It's like, I'm the gay. I'm the guest. I just wanted to, I'm not a host. I am guest Emmy. We're talking to Emmy from the Cutaways, we were chatting just before we went to some music about, trans elders and music, and then how that passes down to the and informs trans artists now coming out with different kinds of music, varying from punk. Actually, a lot of trans bands like punk music. It seems, it's almost like we've got problems with the system. I don't,
Never noticed that. Oh, jeez. And I guess like how that informs, younger generations too. And punk being a fantastic medium, a genre to emphasize I am angry. And mostly an overall very accepting community, which
really made it a lot easier for me when I came out, just knowing that, I've got this punk community there and they're more than likely going to support me. And obviously there is a few douchebags that do exist, but they've long gone. But yeah.
And they get slowly like siphoned and squeezed out of those communities over time as well.
Or educated, Sometimes you just need to be around it and be like, oh, okay, I was the dickhead.
Oh, trans people, not so scary. They're angry though, but they're not scary. And a while back, you, the Cutaways, did a tour with Laura Jane Grace.
It was actually a solo tour, so it was just me.
It's just you.
It was just
Never
me.
mind.
We've supported Against Me a few years ago, but yeah, I did a solo tour with Laura Jane Grace and the Devouring Mothers, which was a band she put some songs out with a couple of years ago, and the headline of the tour was a band called Murder by Death from Kentucky, I think, in the States, who I've loved for many years. So it was mind-blowing. It was like a dream come true. So I'll never forget the day I got that email asking if I would be happy or if I'd like to support both those bands on a tour around Australia, and it was amazing.
You're just like, I'm crying.
Probably one of the best musical opportunities I think I'll ever have. It was just incredible.
So well deserved. I mean, like, you're an exceptional act. So yes, I've seen you solo. You're great. So and so what do you think that with that experience? Because Laura Jane Grace is kind of iconic as like this trans elder in the community, particularly with music and punk music.
Yeah.
How do you think this is going to look going forward? Because I consider you an iconic, trans artist here in Brisbane that's informing younger generation.
Totally.
Yeah, I'll take that. Yeah.
Wipe the dust off your shoulder. Yeah.
Sorry, finish.
Oh, no, I was just saying, like, so how do you feel about all this going forward? What's the future look like for young trans artists?
Oh, it's looking great. Like I said before, it's unstoppable now. I mean, the floodgates are open. It's just, and I think, not just here in Brisbane, but Australia-wide, worldwide, I mean, you're just going to keep seeing it, I think. I mean, just the whole, that next generation, it's just completely different. Kids are growing up with a completely different mindset, whether it comes to gender identity or music and things like that. So at some point, it's all just going to mush together, and you're going to see it all over the place. So
it's going to explode.
It's wonderful. Yeah, well, totally, and it already is. I mean, like I said to you before, like I've sort of have my blinders on when it comes to just new music in general a lot these days. But it's there, and it's there, and things are changing and all for the better. So yeah, I guess, and like you referring back to Laura Jane Grace being sort of, I guess, like you said, like an elder kind of thing. I guess people like that are the ones that did open or make those opportunities for people to feel like a lot more comfortable and be visible.
Yeah. It's really cool.
Were there any trans people that you particularly looked up to when you were coming out, or
definitely Laura Jane Grace? She came out, and that again was just mind blowing to me reading that article when it came out, because I'd always been a fan. Well, I'd been a fan of Against Me for a long time, so already like an artist that I looked up to, and I obviously was having these feelings growing up, and to know that there was an artist that I already looked up to had also experienced that growing up, so it kind of blew my mind. It was about 6 months after Laura Jane Grace came out that I came out to my partner at the time.
Really? Wow.
Yep. And then it was about 2 years later that I came out publicly. So but yeah, and then just to have the opportunity to tour with Laura, we had a lot of one-on-one time, which was kind of cool. I was tasked with driving a van with all the gear in it, but just while we're in New South Wales, so like from Sydney to Newcastle and then to Canberra and stuff. And Laura much preferred sitting in the van with me as opposed to sitting in a van with a bunch of other people, so we got a lot of time to chat, and it was lovely, and it was just she's just a down-to-earth person to start with, but I mean, just having that talking trans stuff and just our experiences and everything, it sort of brings everything down to a totally different level, but yeah, it was very, very special experience.
That's so sweet.
Yeah.
I just Laura Jane Grace is actually on a long list of trans people I want to talk to on this show.
Oh, I'm sure you could get her if she's in Brisbane.
Yeah, because you were saying, she's just very down to earth, and I get that sense from her on the media and everything, that she's like not untouchable. You can actually contact her.
She's still got that full DIY.
She's a real anarchist.
And which is so
like Amanda
cool.
Palmer, kind of, that like.
Oh, she's better than Amanda Palmer, easily.
But I mean, obviously when she's done these big tours with Against Me, they have like a stage crew and roadies and stuff. But when on this tour of Australia with the Devouring Mothers, I mean, there was no crew. There was nothing, at the end of her set, she'd just stand on the stage, roll up her own lead, pack it away on her own, and yeah, we had discussions about how incredible that was, that she's still doing that. And as far as I know, with her solo touring that she's doing a lot of around the States and Europe and stuff at the moment, I'm pretty sure that's how she travels around as well, just on her own, does everything herself, doesn't have to rely on like record companies and a crew and things like that. So it's pretty amazing to
Good on her.
Yeah, totally, 100%. That's the sort of musician you want to be, right? You don't, it's just honest and it's real. Yeah.
And it's about the art, you're like, I'm here to share these stories, these music stories. And
one of my trans mates in back when we were living in Melbourne couldn't go to the Against Me gig that was on, and then drove however long it is to Sydney to see Against Me, and I don't know, I think she must have seen the tweet or something that he was driving, and then just made a point to come and meet him after the show and give him a hug and say thanks for making the effort to come and see my show. It's just so he was beside himself.
Yeah, it's amazing.
That's so sweet. I mean, there's another artist that you also, because I asked you to select a song.
Oh, yes, yeah.
So Dyke Drama.
That's right.
So the song that we're going to play.
Yeah,
tell me.
Dyke Drama. She's put a few EPs out. She goes by Dyke Drama with her releases, but it's Sadie Switchblade. He used to be in a band called Gloss, who I'm sure a lot of listeners
Yeah,
We
have
play some
probably
Gloss.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is a bit more chilled. It's I think she's probably got a total of 3 EPs out. Which one was this off? Tender Resignation, I think is the name of
Tender
this EP.
Resignation.
Yeah, so this popped up. I was listening to this a few years ago, and it popped up on like a playlist that I had. So a couple of weeks ago. So I thought, let's give it a blast.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's have a listen. This
Sure.
is The Hardest Years by Dyke Drama. The Hardest Years, Dyke Drama. You're listening to Transmission on 4ZZZ. My name is Ez. I use he, him pronouns.
And my name is Kai, and I use they, she pronouns.
And Emmy here, the special guest. I use she, her pronouns.
We've been chatting with Emmy from the Cutaways today about music, about being trans, and how that translates to music. I wouldn't mean to make a trans like pun thing there, but it happens all the time. Wow, Kai, so like enthused.
I liked it.
Thanks, Emmy. Good guest, you see. Thank you so much for coming in
Thank
and
you for
chatting with
having
us.
me. It's so much fun. It's such a nice chat.
You're
I love you
totally
both.
going to come back in.
Yeah,
We're
of
gonna
course.
make it happen.
Anytime. We can
Yeah.
come and play some songs sometime.
Yes, you should. Thank you so much. And we'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to Transmission. See you next Tuesday, 9 to 10 a.m. on 4ZZZ.